Welcome to the Bridge of Truth. Welcome also to our very first live broadcast from the new broadcast booth here at the Chemistry Set Studio. My special guest this evening is Stephanie Azaria. I'm really excited to have her. Stephanie was one of the guests on my first show a little over 2 years ago, and it is amazing that she's able to come back to do this. Stephanie, when we did our first show 2 years ago, it was about 2012, and back then, it seemed like everybody was talking about it, what was going to happen in 2012, and now it seems like almost you hear nothing. Mm-hmm. So I hope that you can maybe give us a little update on what's been going on with
sure, yeah.
cosmic consciousness. And
that's actually a great way to kick it off. It's a great question. In my opinion, 2012 happened a long time ago, and time has stretched out over this period because so much of humanity is waiting for this 2012 winter solstice moment, even if they're not hyping it anymore. And they will. You'll see right before. Because
yeah, I was expecting a countdown to Armageddon. I mean, it's only 5 months away.
It's not a big deal, really, because it's already a done deal, as most of you people know. It's already accomplished. It's already been achieved. We're already moved into the new world. We're watching the old world slip away. There are literally two Earths going on at this moment. Literally two different worlds are being lived in on this planet right now. And it's very, very interesting.
That's a really open question. It's like, what are those two worlds?
Well, there's basically the 3D world that we are accustomed to, that we've lived on for many, many, many eons. You know, I think when we did our first show, we talked about this a little bit, that there are, for all intents and purposes, 12 dimensions that we're able to realize here. I don't know if it's exactly 12, to be honest. I don't know that anybody does, but I like that number. It serves astrologically in every other which way. But if you would consider that at the 12th dimension, we are one with Source. That's the place where we are one with everything. At the most vertical point of our beingness. And we're living right now in the third dimension, which is a dimension of physicality. It's a dimension where we are separate from each other, and we experience time in a linear fashion. That's not really reality. That's not the way it exists, but we experience it that way here. And my belief is that we all exist in every dimension, always, all the time. And the only reason we're living in 3D is because we've put our consciousness here. This is where our consciousness is. What's happening is that those of us who are remembering that we are one with Source, or that we came from God, if you will, those of us who are remembering that. And why are we remembering that? Because it's time, basically. That's what the Mayan calendar is really about. It's a turning point. This is the turning point. We are actually literally headed back towards Source now. We're back in the light, if you will. We're at the deepest, darkest place we could be in our cycle. And as we turn back around, some of us remember very vividly that we belong to God. And we are raising our consciousness, literally. Our consciousness is lifting into a higher and higher dimension. And so some of us have shifted into 5D, which is a dimension where separation still exists, but it's all about the energy. It's not about the physicality anymore. It's about the oneness that we all share. And time and space have a completely different reality. It's a very different thing. In other words, you can think a thought and manifest it instantly in 5D. It manifests right away. What we don't realize is that in 3D, we would think a thought and it would manifest too, but it would sometimes take lifetimes to do it. So, and then by that time we would forget that we created the thought in the first place.
So if these other higher dimensions are sort of like the dimensions of thought, if the veil is lifting, which is enabling us to access these other dimensions, and we're able to manifest from thought, is that kind of like what you're saying?
Yeah. They're not levels of thought, they're levels of consciousness. I mean, in the beginning was the word, right? So the word, or a thought, is what creates everything in the first place, but each dimension has a different set of qualities to it.
I guess I'm using thought more in the sense of mind, because when a scientist starts to approach the idea of multi-dimensions, they're really thinking of it as not necessarily as consciousness, but as that cosmic field, where the mind of the universe perhaps resides.
I think I prefer to use the word logos for that, because it makes a distinction between, I hate the word separation these days, it makes a distinction between the thoughts that we think in our lower mind and the logos, the higher mind that is the creator, basically. I mean, my whole idea is very simplified, but my whole idea is that we were all a oneness, one with Source, for all eternity, and somewhere in all of that beingness, a thought popped up, and the thought was, I wonder what it feels like to feel all this love, to be loved. And to me, that was the Big Bang.
That was the creator seeking to be loved.
Yeah, and everything from there went to separation state. Unfortunately, the minute you're in a separate body, you're in fear. Fear is born because you perceive yourself to be apart from the oneness, and things like, what am I missing, what am I lacking, what do I need, what do I want, all of those things which are ego-based become very prevalent, and we get lost in those things. The more we come from a fear-based place, the more karma we create for ourselves, the more of a need to stay in this realm and balance everything out. All right, we live by the law of karma here. Everything has an equal reaction. Everything has to come out even in the end. And so the karma we create for ourselves is like gravity. I call it gravity. I think that's what gravity is, actually. It keeps us in this realm, and we can't get out until we decide to clear away or choose love. Same thing. Clear your karma, come from the heart, same exact thing. It's the same thing. So that's where the new astrology comes from.
Well, I know that we're going to be spending most of our discussion on that. Before we do that, Stephanie was nice enough to bring our backdrop for the evening, and perhaps she'd like to mention exactly what that is and talk a little bit about how that relates to what's been going on in your life for the last 2 years.
Okay, well, actually, this has been in my life for about 9 or 10 years. This is the prema agni, which many of you may have seen if you've seen my website or gone to the SQ website, the SQ Wellness website, which is the website of Derek O'Neill, who is an amazing master teacher. He's my teacher. This is the prema agni, which means fire of divine love. And it's a symbol that Derek channeled in. He actually dreamt it one night, and he brought it to his teacher, who was Sai Baba, and he said he thought it was something very important, and he thought that if it really was, he would see if Sai Baba asked him for it. He didn't want to be in his ego about it.
Right.
So Sai Baba came, and he walked right by him, and he walked all the way to the end of the room, and he came back, and he said, Prema Agni. And he asked for the piece of paper that it was drawn on, and that was the beginning of this. This Prema Agni, which I could actually sort of describe a little bit. The heart obviously represents love, and these chevrons here represent the energy of love being pulled down into the triangle, which is manifestation. So it's love being made manifest in the world. And of course, this axis here, the cross, is the cross we're on in this 3D world. The vertical cross is the connection of the lower self to the higher self. The horizontal cross is the ego's cross, the thing that keeps us stuck here in the heart, just below the heart, where we can't kind of find our way back to the heart. So it's a very, very powerful symbol. You can draw it anywhere. You can, when I get on an airplane, I draw it and blow it into the air. When I start a group, I blow a prema agni. When a baby's crying, I draw a prema agni on it. It's a very, very powerful healing symbol.
I just want to mention that our show later on this week, I hope to be able to post it to the Bridge of Truth website. But there you'll also then see I did a live remote broadcast from the Meta Center where our other guest that first show, Anthony Citro, did a demonstration of the Prema Agni from the Meta Center. So
that's great.
Those 3 videos are there, a video for doing it for yourself, for someone else, and also remotely to the world. So definitely check that out. And aside from that, though, Steph, I know you've been really exploring new astrologies in this last year, and that's become a part of your
It's
process.
actually been 4 or 5 years. About 4 or 5 years ago, I was urged by Derek to look into a new field, a different field of astrology. Not a new field, an established field.
I remember you mentioning it, I think,
Yeah.
on our first broadcast, but you
Yeah.
hadn't formulated it yet, and that's
No,
why-
it all sort of came together. Well, it was formulated, but it was just, I wrote, in the meantime, in the last 2 years, I've written
right.
a book.
You weren't able to.
Right,
really
and I've
get it.
started working with the system, which I actually started working with 4 years ago. So it's a new astrology. You know, I've been an astrologer since I've been studying since I'm 9 years old. And that's a lot of years. And I've always felt that there are things about astrology that just don't seem right to me. I've always felt that way. I love astrology. I consider myself pretty good at it. And I have always felt there were things that were off. For instance, when you look at a birth chart and you see how the signs go around in a counterclockwise direction. And I once asked a great teacher, one of my teachers that I studied with, why that's so. And they gave me some kind of a very strange response about how we're on the outside looking in, and you have to look at it that way in order to understand, you know, to see the movement of the planets or whatever. And, you know, it's sort of true, but it never really made sense. It just didn't quite. Anyway, I thought that in order to help people move more fully into a higher consciousness, which has always been my goal. I don't know why, but I guess it always has been. It has actually always been my goal. In order to help people move into a new consciousness, the first thing that needed to happen was people need to understand what astrology really is. Because in this last age of Pisces, for these last 2,000 or 3,000 or 4,000 years, astrology's been more of a parlor game, more of an unimportant system that people mostly scoff at, instead of what it really is. Astrology is really the greatest tool in the whole world for realizing yourself and for finding out exactly where you are in time and space. It's the greatest clock ever. It'll always tell you what time it is. As my consciousness began to expand, and of course it's still expanding, as my consciousness began to expand, I began to realize, you know, that we are projecting the whole world from our own consciousness. Just as God created the world, we create the world in God's image, basically. That's what that means to me. So I am aware, I think many of you are, that we live in a 4-body system, the physical, the emotional, the mental, the spiritual. We live in this entirely complete 4-body system, which we could call our quantum energy field. It's huge. It's way bigger than our physicality. And when you look out at the world, what you see is the earth, the water, the air, and the cosmos, which is the exact reflection of your own physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual body. We all think we're seeing the same world when we look out there, but we're not. We're seeing our own world, our own creation. We share these experiences because we all contain the same thing, basically, the same bodies. But I began to realize that the world I live in is the exact reflection of the thoughts I think and the beliefs that I hold. And when I applied that to astrology, I began to realize that the cosmos is basically the reflection of our spiritual body. Everything in our spiritual being is contained in the cosmos. And that means that our spiritual, if you look at it that way, you can see that your spiritual body is quite vast, almost infinite. When you look at the whole world that way, you begin to understand what makes you tick, what makes up your existence. And the new astrology is based on that concept, that what you see out there, the planets, the stars, the constellations, they're all just the reflection of your own energy field. They're all your own field. Your energy field contains all 12 signs of the zodiac, and you are all of those signs. So it became the basis for a whole new system of astrology. At that point, I found some work that was done by Elizabeth Clare Prophet, who many of you know was an amazing channel for the Ascended Masters, along with her husband, Mark Prophet. She wrote a book called The Cosmic Clock, and in that book she described a clock which was the basis of an astrology system, which was given to her by Mother Mary when she was 9 years old, when Elizabeth was 9 years old, which right away made me perk up because I got into astrology when I was 9 years old. So there was a connection right away. The system, she wrote a whole humongous book on it, but there was no real system in it. It was the basis, it was the skeleton of a system, but it wasn't usable. You couldn't be applied. So I felt it was my purpose, my mission, to flesh out this system. And so what the new system is, which I call cosmic astrology, is a correction to the birth chart. The way I see it now, the birth chart is the map of your current incarnation. And it speaks to your karma, and it speaks to your issues, and it speaks to your blocks, and it speaks to your strengths, and it speaks to all of those things. When you lay the cosmic clock on top of it, the chart is no longer read counterclockwise. It now becomes a clockwise experience, which is the correction. And then you travel around the clock, beginning on your birthday at 12 o'clock. You travel around the clock once every year. And you can, depending on what day it is, what time it is, you can tell exactly where you are in your own energy field, what that means. The system is fully fleshed out. So each hour, the houses have become hours. Each hour has its own. Maybe you could put up the...
Yeah, which one? You've given me some excellent
why don't you put up the one that's entitled Birth Chart first?
Great.
And let me just show. You can see when you see this is the original way that we would read charts. So we start with Aries and we travel around counterclockwise. That's the way a chart is read. The new astrology, which is the direction. Here we go. We start up at the top of the clock and we travel around the clock clockwise once a month. What most of us don't realize is that every month on the date of our birthday, so if you were born on the 8th, for instance, then on the 8th of each and every month, something happens in your life that is what we would call an initiation or a new beginning. It moves you into the next chapter. This has always been true. It's happened all of your life. You're just not paying attention. And so once you start to pay attention, you will be amazed at how the system really, how astrology really is designed to help you understand yourself and where you're at any given moment. What all of that knowledge does is it restores you to the choice between love and fear. As soon as you can choose love over fear, you're clearing your karma, you're bringing your consciousness back to a higher state. And it's a system that works very, very powerfully. It's related to all kinds of things. It's related to things like the ray. It brings everything in, the chakras, the rays, colors, numbers, tones. Everything is related here so that whatever speaks to you, you can work with. Each hour has a master or a goddess associated with it, and that also is a way to connect with your higher self. There are all different ways to connect with your higher self or to clear away the issues of your ego in that particular area.
And all that information is in the book that you've...
Oh, yeah. I wrote a book. Here it is. This is a journal for 2012 where my co-writer and I, Britt Martin, who is also my protege and my business partner in this book, we're hard at work on the 2013 version. Mm-hmm. This book introduces cosmic astrology. The next book will introduce the cosmic path of initiations, which is the system that I worked out to help facilitate people through their own journey each year. There are certified facilitators. I'm not the only one who does it. There are others working hard to become certified facilitators. My vision for this system is to bring it fully online into the, rooted into the planet and make it something real.
I notice we are getting a question coming in from our chat room. For anybody else that's watching, feel free. There's a link right below the screen where you're watching our broadcast. Just enter any name, your own or a screen name, and there's a code to let us know that you're real, and type in your question. And we have one from Shannon. She says, tell me, will connecting to love energy propel me to fulfill my purpose, which is to bring joy into a fear-based world? It almost seems like she's answering
it's a redundant
her own
question.
She's almost answering her own question.
Yeah. Yes, Shannon. If you want to bring joy into the fear-based world, you have to begin by choosing love consistently and completely on your own. It has to be an inside job. You know, those are the words of Gandhi, who said, be the love you wish to find in the world. So you have to work on you, which is what the system is really all about.
You don't have.
Exactly. I think you know, Shannon, that you don't really have to ask that question. So the thing is, you need to work on that connection to love yourself, and then you will automatically be bringing joy to the world. It's not even a question of how to do it. Once you step into the love-based self, you're doing what you came here to do. You don't even have to leave your living room. You'll be doing what you came here to do. Yes. The system that I created is, especially the cosmic path of initiations, is designed to help you to clear away any of those blocks that may be preventing you from connecting to love, or that may be getting you to choose fear. Obviously, none of us chooses fear deliberately. It's really an unconscious reaction that we have, that we've learned that...
It's part of our genetic history, because we needed fear when we were, apes, or, coming out of being apes, and for survival. So fear is as a matter of fact, I don't suggest don't be afraid, because fear can actually help you. It's when fear is being used in a way that doesn't serve you, and that's what you really have to be careful about.
Yeah.
To be afraid, for instance, to not want to do this show. So at some point you have to overcome the fear.
There you go. It's a perfect example. Yeah, I mean, we all unconsciously move into fear-based reactions on a daily, regular basis. The journal that we created is designed to get you to practice some disciplines, which are like journaling, for instance, which is, I don't know if any of you have ever gone on a diet, you know the value of writing down the food you eat. It just really makes you conscious of what you're putting into your body. Well, the same goes with journaling about your day, just any which way you want to. It doesn't have to be a lot, but the journaling really brings your consciousness to your own life and to yourself, and it's a very important spiritual discipline that I highly advocate, and it's the basis of the cosmic path of initiations as well.
The one thing I can suggest for anybody that's dealing with any sort of negative issue in their lives is to seek the positive balance. If you're feel like you're dwelling too much in fear, then you look to the positive, which is trust and faith, and find a way to build that, to find that from source, as opposed to believing that source is a fearful thing, or that we naturally have to be prey to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, any place, if you put your focus back on yourself, then any place that fear comes up is going to be the place to start to work on yourself. There's only one choice, ever. Love or fear. That's it. There's only one choice. So the thing to do is put your focus directly on yourself and pay attention to where you're motivated from. What is motivating anything and everything that you do? Well, everything is a big chunk to bite off, but anything that you do is a good place to start. What's motivating your being here tonight, right now? What is your motivation?
We're getting a number of other questions here.
Mm-hmm.
How do you use the daily journal? I bought it earlier this year.
Okay, the daily journal book is just meant to provide you with a lot of astrological information and also to get you in the habit of journaling. You can learn a lot about the cosmic astrology system simply by reading the front of the book. It's very basic and simple. It's not a thorough, complete book. If you want to learn more about cosmic astrology, I have a whole series of teleconferences, which I'm actually in the middle of doing, but there are 2 series that are already available that are just on the system and the planets. I'm sorry, not the planets, the signs. Each of the signs has a whole teleconference that's devoted to. So you can get in touch with me if you want to study it that way. Or you can come and call one of my facilitators or me, and we can do the Cosmic Path of Initiations together. The journal is not designed to help you know where you are on the clock. The new journal will be a little more directed toward that. This first journal was designed to just introduce the whole system. So I would say to you, Anne, start by journaling in that book every day, and pay attention to yourself. That's the best thing you can do with that book right now. Of course, if you're into astrology, you'll get the added benefit of knowing where the moon is every day and what the aspects are, where the stargates are, and all of that.
Shannon had a follow-up to her original question. And it's actually something that, if we can answer it, she asked about how do you deal with physical pain on a love-based level. And the thing is, now with all this advancement in a higher consciousness, a lot of people are undergoing a lot of intense physical purification. So what do you suggest Shannon do? Do you have any recommendations for that, for physical pain?
Well, here's what I would say about physical pain. Physical pain is your physical body talking to you. It's telling you, giving you messages. The first thing we have to do when we're in a lot of pain is to move out of the consciousness of fear, which tells us we're sick, right? There's no such thing as sickness. In fact, this is going to be a radical statement, but there's no such thing as death. As Derek is very fond of saying, death is our favorite habit. So it's just we create what it is we believe. The body hurts us when it's drawing our attention. So the best thing you can do is be loving towards your body, pay attention to the part of your body that is in pain, find out from someone, if you don't know yourself, what that body part means esoterically. You might use Louise Hay's books, or Louise Hay has written many amazing books on this particular topic. Or speak to a medical intuitive. Type in what part of your body hurts you, Shannon. I'll see what I can tell you. But what you're going to do is get the message. What you want to do when you're in pain is ask your body to tell you what the message is, and then love yourself back to a natural state, a state that's not painful anymore. Your body is screaming at you about something. That's basically what pain is. That is the love-based way to deal with pain. Anne mentioned also another follow-up that she was born on January 2nd. So one thing I will say to you, Anne, is to pay careful attention to what happens in your life on the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of every month. Write it down. Have a look. That's your initiation for the month. That's what's sending you off into the next part of your own consciousness field. So it's a very relevant, very important information.
How would that information come to you? Would it be a personal challenge, perhaps, that you have to face at that
It might be
moment?
something as subtle as a little challenge. It might be something as spiritual as a master coming to you and initiating you in some way. It might be you meet somebody new. It might be your toilet overflows. It might be very mundane. It might be very, very spiritual. But something happens that moves you into the next area of your being. And the truth is, we start on our birthday every year in the Capricorn field. So you can use the journal to learn a lot about Capricorn if you're in your birthday month. So on January 2nd, Anne, you're in Capricorn. On February 2nd, you move into Aquarius, and so on and so forth. Everybody can do that and learn a lot more about where they are in their energy field that way.
Morning Star's asking something that actually sounds pretty deep. It's about, how do I know if your 12 DNA strands are cleared, and what are the signs? Because that's something you want to address.
Sure, I'll give it that is a very deep question.
That's why
that requires a lot of focus, but I'll give you the simple answer, which is that when your DNA is cleared, your consciousness is much higher and you are flowing smoothly and clearly. There's always a snag. What I wanted to say, this actually launches me into that, is that we are now, those of us who are focused in this way that you're talking about, Morning Star, we are all living half in 3D, half in 5D, which is actually something that has never been possible to do before in physical form. It's very confusing. It's a very difficult place to be. And while we're in this state, and we're in it for a very important reason, which is to help the planet itself to ascend, to move into 5D itself. So we have to act sort of as the lightning rods to bring that consciousness through us. And we do need to be cleared, as you're bringing up, in order to do that. So where there's a snag, where there's an issue, where there's blockage in your body, or where there's emotional stuff, where there's mental issues like obsession or fear or stuff like that, that's all DNA strands needing clearing. And the way to do that is simply to move into your heart and allow whatever comes up to present itself. Don't be afraid. Fear is the only thing in the world that stops us from moving forward. There is nothing else that can do that. Everything else, blocks, issues, challenges, they just make us stronger, and they evolve us much more fully. There's never anything to fear. Anything that's ever happened to any of you, you've gotten through, and you're better now for it. I can say that unequivocally. Right? There's never been anything. Okay, Shannon is saying she has scoliosis,
right,
and you're in pain. This is probably a karmic issue, Shannon. That doesn't mean you can't overcome it, though. Okay, so scoliosis is the curvature of the spine. The spine is the backbone. It's your inner strength. It's your capacity to stand up tall and be counted. And these are issues that you need to love yourself back into. Don't allow your physicality to prevent you from stepping into yourself and standing up tall. And I promise you, you will find that if you do it that way, come from the inside out, you're going to find your body lightens up on you in every which way you can think of. You might try some healers who understand a little bit too. Not doctors, healers. Not to say that doctors aren't important. If it weren't for doctors, I don't think I'd be sitting here right now. I had a very intense year last year. I had cancer. I had to go through surgery. And honestly, I'm very grateful that that was the case. But I'm not going to sit here now and tell you I'm sick. That's ridiculous. My experience of it was that it was karmic for me. I was giving up a piece of myself in karmic payment for the way that I dealt with my body all my life. It's done now. It's over. And there is no such thing as sickness. There's nothing that can't be overcome. Nothing. Just have to love yourself through it. Now, when you have something like scoliosis, it's easy to get down on yourself and feel like you're less than. But you got to get out of that fear-based thought process and bring yourself back to a loving space. Treat yourself like you're your own 2-year-old little girl and love yourself. Give yourself all the love you can, and it will help you immeasurably, I promise you.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I know. I think that would benefit a lot of people. Terry M is asking, how can I get my birth chart on the clock, or should I say get the clock on my birth chart? You can show what that looks like.
Okay, this is a picture of the cosmic clock. It's a little hard to see, but what I can do is provide anyone who would like one with what I call a cosmic clock overlay. It looks like this. It doesn't have all that much information in it. This is just sort of a description of the hours. I'll be happy to send you that too if you like. The overlay should be printed out on transparent paper and laid right over your chart. And you can put your birth date at the top, and you can see where you are on the clock. Of course, it's going to be much more clear and much more significant if you call one of the facilitators who can really walk you through it, help you through it. So the best way to go to look, Terry, that's a great question. We're going to put that up on the web, my new website, which is Cosmic Quotient. Cosmic-quotient.com is devoted to cosmic astrology and everything that's related to it. So what we'll do is we'll put up I'm not sure if there's one up there yet, but we'll make sure it's up there that you can, maybe even one that could be downloaded.
It'd be great. Oh, yeah, it'd be great if you have a link that you can do that.
Yeah, that's
As a matter of fact, when you do have that link, I can add it hopefully to the my page on the Bridge of Truth where this broadcast will be, so that they can click right from the broadcast.
That'd be great. Wonderful. Yeah.
Anna had a question actually that kind of sort of touches on what Shannon was talking about. How do you love yourself when you have not been taught? I know that we can say affirmations, but it doesn't really seem natural.
Loving yourself doesn't seem natural to you?
It's the affirmations, yeah.
Oh, the affirmations don't feel natural.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, you don't need to use affirmations. They help when you need to reframe your thinking about something in particular. That's the best time to use an affirmation. When, let's say, you have a job and you hate it and you go in every day and you say, oh God, I hate this job so much, and you do it over and over again, and you know it's going to serve you better to be more loving toward the work you're doing or the job you have. That's when you use an affirmation. An affirmation isn't meant for you to say and just believe. It's meant to help reframe your thought process. So I can understand why it doesn't feel natural.
It's sort of like as if, right? The philosophy of as if.
Act as if. Exactly right. What I would say to you, Anne, is that if you can ask the question, how do you love yourself? You know what love is in your heart of hearts. And the best way to love yourself is to consciously bring your focus back to your heart. How do you do that? It's so simple. You can just say, Anne, open your heart. Or you can just tap your heart like this, and you'll be back in your heart. It's so simple, it's not funny, but we don't remember to do it. So when you're uncomfortable in any way, when you're asking yourself a lot of questions, that's a very uncomfortable state. I say this all the time. Every question that's ever been asked is of the ego. It's a fear-based thing. It comes from the idea that we don't know something. Now, I'm not saying questions are useless. Sometimes they're very, very important. But when you're asking yourself so many questions that you're driving yourself crazy, why did I do that? How do I do this? What's going on? Why isn't it? When you're in that space,
instead of just being,
you need to just consciously choose to go back to your heart center. Your heart knows how to love you. And when you're in your heart, you don't have to do anything. You have to just let it all be. Whatever comes up, it is. And you learn so much from putting yourself back in that center. Oh, you're so welcome.
What Shannon brought up is actually, I think, bringing up a lot of things for people. Lisa's asking, I've been experiencing the SQ, is it?
The 5D?
Oh, that's what 5D, okay. Ability to manifest immediately, and am caught in a cycle of fear. I have an idea of my purpose in this lifetime, but unsure how to manifest it. Any ideas to gain clarity?
Okay. The reason you're caught in the cycle of fear, Lisa, is because you have a need to know what it is. Okay? So the minute you catch yourself manifesting it, you don't know what you're doing yet. None of us does. You're not alone, believe me. We're all finding these new powers and strengths and capacities that we didn't know we had. I think we all understand that it's part of being more conscious. Yet it's kind of scary, especially when you're on your way into, the full manifestation of what you're here to do. So the thing you want to do is let it all just be. It's a little scary, it is. It's scary. It's going to be scary, but let fear be. Let everything just be and move. When this is the thing, when you become afraid and the question comes up, what is this? What is this? Where am I going? What's next? I need to know. I have to know. I don't want to go until I get the lay of the land, so to speak. You're never going to get anywhere that way. You're just going to keep coming back to that question. It's like hitting an iron wall. So the thing you want to do is go, because it's the step you take that allows you to find out what it is you want to know. It's only in the allowing. I say this all the time. Allowing to me is a synonym for feminine energy. And it's the feminine and the feminine alone that births consciousness. It's the story of the Virgin Mother. The Virgin Mother birthed the Christ. It's just a metaphor. We all have to move into the allowing, unified state in order to get to the consciousness. There's no way to use your 3D mind to get yourself there. It's not going to work, and you're going to keep having this cycle until you just let go, let God. God being you. God being your own higher self.
What I'd like to add to that, actually, in terms of knowing your purpose, is to perhaps get out of your mind and get into your heart.
Yes.
Because it really is about feeling. When you just go through your life, it's daily process of living, you will do things and you will know inside that this feels good, this is right. It's almost like if you let yourself direct your path, you will be automatically drawn to it, as long as you don't put up the blocks to that. What will happen is lots of times, either because of a past conditioning or society's pressure or whatever it might be, other considerations, health, that we don't necessarily open ourselves up to really seeing what's the truth that's in front of us.
Yeah, yep. Shannon's asking, when she has upper back pain, she doesn't know what to do to help herself. This is going to sound a little strange, Shannon, but the thing to do is to go into the pain, not away from it. You're resisting it. You're struggling with it, and it's only making it worse. Go into the pain. Go all the way in and ask it what it's saying to you. And then wait for the answer. It will come if you let it. Allow, allow, allow. It's the whole key to everything. And you'll find when you do that, when you start to do that, you're going to find your body posture shifting a little bit. You're going to heal yourself if you'll allow it. It's all about allowing it. It's all about letting it happen. There's nothing we can't heal. There's nothing we can't do unless we believe otherwise. The only thing that ever stops us.
Right, and there are so many tools out there. You practice Rising Star. I practice Joe Ray. There's so many wonderful ways that, and those healing techniques, again, are kind of like the other things that we are drawn to in our lives. We'll find the right one, the thing that works for us.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, listen, we've had an amazing conversation. I want to make sure you have enough time before we close to talk about whatever else you might like to in terms of the cosmic quotient. And,
Okay. Well, as I said, the Cosmic Quotient is my new website. It's designed to sort of be a bridge between my Cosmic Path website and the SQ website, which is the website of my teacher, Derek O'Neill, because Cosmic Astrology would not have been born without him. He kind of kicked me into it somehow, got me to open to it. So it's sort of a way to pay homage to him and to bring the new information forward without, you know, changing Cosmic Path completely, because it's a happy, healthy website in its own right. The Cosmic Quotient website is devoted to the Cosmic Path of Initiations work. I really urge all of you to look into it. Go to the website and read about it. It's an amazing journey. It requires discipline and devotion, a year's commitment at least of monthly sessions with a facilitator who is trained and certified by me.
So you're doing that as well?
I'm doing all of it, yes.
Yes.
My goal in my life is to ground this new system back onto the planet. Believe me, it's not new. This is an ancient system that I've channeled through with the help of Elizabeth Clare Prophet's work. I have fleshed it out and channeled it through with a little help from some of my great students and friends, and it works. I've been working with clients for over 4 years using this system, and it does amazing things, from just clearing up, you know, misery, daily misery, to healing people, to helping people to ascend into their higher selves. Anything and everything can happen when you devote yourself to a practice. This is sort of a mechanical practice that you can use to use astrology and learn all about yourself at the same time.
You used one word that's kind of key, the word of discipline. And I think that's one of the biggest life challenges, is to be disciplined about anything. But I guess with your path, you really do. Yeah, it's something that, I mean, if you're mentioning about keeping a journal and, you know, maintaining contact with a practitioner on a regular basis.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I've had a couple of 100 clients do this work with me already, and, you know, some of them don't like to be disciplined at all, and so what they do is the minimal work, which is to send me, you know, a couple of paragraphs right before their session about their initiation, which works. It's better than nothing. It works. You know, the system also includes tools to use to help clear your karma, which are given to you when you start the system, and some people use them very, very diligently and with great discipline, and others use them only when they really need them, and others don't use them at all. But everybody benefits, you know. The more aware you are of yourself, the better off you are, whether it's a little bit more consciousness or ascension itself. It's a system that will help you to get grounded in yourself and step more fully into who you really are. So I can't stress it enough how much I would love to see everybody on the planet using this system.
Now let me ask you, just for anybody that might be curious, I mean, how much do you need to know about astrology to be able to take advantage of what you do?
You don't need to know anything about astrology. The facilitator is there to work with you and your issues in your life. It's not a reading so much as it's a guidance process. It uses astrology as a tool, but that doesn't need to be, just as when I do a regular reading for you, I don't need to talk astrology at you. I can just tell you about yourself. You know, a facilitator knows how to speak to you about you and help you work on your issues. And the more you want to know about the system, the more that he or she is able to share with you.
What a facilitator, or somebody that wanted to be a facilitator, they would need a strong foundation, though, in traditional astrology?
You would not a strong foundation, but you do need to understand astrology. Obviously, the more you understand, the better off you're going to be. But it is a brand new system.
So you're somewhat self-contained in what you're teaching?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. That's all I have to say to that, yes.
Wonderful. Well, you know, we're getting a great response from our viewers, and I know that we're going to be doing more. It's just been so wonderful to have you here. Please look for this. It'll be on my site probably within the next week. And if you're seeing this several months from now, just disregard what I've just said, because you're watching it. But thank you again, Stephanie, and
Thanks,
I really
Al.
hope that we do this soon.
Yeah, it's great.